International condemnation grows after Israel amended laws that will now make it easier for the purchase of land in the occupied Palestinian territories. This is being slammed as a de facto move to annex the West Bank. It was last September that Donald Trump, who often describes himself as Israel's biggest ally, said the United States would never let such annexation happen. Let's bring in Yossi Mekelberg, Senior Consulting Fellow on the Middle East and North Africa Programme at Chatham House. Yossi, always a pleasure to have you here in France 24. Let's start with Gaza, if we may. This truce, to many people, looking objectively, seems more and more misnamed, doesn't it? More deaths today, and one expects that contraventions are getting on for like 600 Palestinians killed since October the 10th. It is an alarming situation, sir, isn't it?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Yes, if it's better than it used to be, the intensity of the airstrike is not as it used to be. However, hundreds of people still have been killed since October. There are almost daily airstrikes, other military operation by the IDF, which means it doesn't feel as a ceasefire for so many Palestinians, but it goes beyond that. You know, before the ceasefire, there was famine in a real hunger there. The situation is better, but still, you have children go to sleep hungry. There is not enough food. There is not enough reconstruction. Even, you know, it was quite a severe winter in Israel and Palestine. So, and most people living, or many people living in tents, which are not enough really to protect them from the elements. So, even if it's better than it used to be, it's far, far from what it should be.
Many people, it's worth reminding people, actually lost their lives whilst trying to get food. This really underscores the depth of the tragedy.
And at the end of the day, there is no shortage of food outside. You know, there are the storages full of food and water, and all what is needed is just to allow all of this to come in. It's about allowing, there are 18,500 people, among them 4,000 children, need medical treatment that can't be inside Gaza. They need to be allowed either to go to the West Bank or to Egypt. And, you know, that's put their lives, definitely their well-being at risk. You know, if the war ended, it means that definitely the civilians need to be able to enjoy all the basic rights that everyone else enjoys. And this is not the case because, well, you know, the international community, the Trump administration look into Board of Peace and government of technocrats that are not even allowed to go into Gaza. There is no sense of urgency as the people in Gaza itself feel every single day.
And these shortages that you've outlined, Yossi, food, medical provision, it is just Israel getting in the way.
It's part of it is obviously Israel. Very slow. It still occupies more than 50% and keep pushing at the yellow line. You have the issue also of Hamas that won't let or end its control of its part of Gaza, but it's also not enough support come from the international community supporting the UN agencies there, the other organizations. Israel already banned 37 NGOs from operating in Gaza, so it's obviously it's a collective failure there, but obviously Israel has the responsibility because at the end of the day, it's the occupying force.
The expulsion of 37 NGOs really summing up a real problem about trying to provide help for people, because if those ways and means of doing that are taken away, clearly there's precious little hope of getting the resources to the people who so desperately need them. And with people coming back through Rafah now, Yossi, to try to find what's left of their homes, the situation is possibly set to become even more acute.
Absolutely, we have to remember those are people who suffer terrible trauma. Many of them, there's hardly any family that hasn't lost more than at least one member of family. Many injured with life-changing injuries. Their houses are destroyed. now 70,000 kids went back to school, but this is not enough. They get every other day schooling. Many others don't even have 1 day of schooling a week. This is all the kind of thing that many of us take for granted don't exist right now because of the devastation, destruction, and the slowness of finding a solution, whether it comes to the international stabilization force, when it makes the peace, the ceasefire permanent, to allow all the aid that is necessary in, dealing with the future of UNRWA, which is basically Israel is constantly attacking the organization, which is the main provider of humanitarian aid, and this ends in the daily suffering of ordinary Palestinians.
Indeed, UNRWA expelled from their offices in East Jerusalem just about a year ago today. Yossi, maybe move on to the West Bank, because the developments there are alarming more and more people across the world. A de facto annexation of the territory due to a change in the law over purchase of land. This must be, to you as a keen observer of all matters there, again, another very disturbing development.
It is disturbing. The only thing which is make it easier with this government, they don't, some of the ministers don't even hide their intentions. In the past, governments expanded settlements, built more settlements, brought more settlers, but hid the intention, still spoke about two-state solution. Here you have the Minister of Finance, also a minister within the defense minister in charge of civil. So in the West Bank said the measures that we are taking right now is to kill the idea of a Palestinian state. In other words, to kill the idea of a peace between Israel and the Palestinians based on a two-state solution. So they enable, individual to buy land, which was not allowed before that. They even expose who are the owners of this land, and in the imbalance, the power imbalance between Israelis and Palestinians, as we see on a daily basis, it will allow them to pressurize a Palestinian landowner to sell land to settlers, and then you see the expansion of more settlements. It violates the Oslo Agreement by saying that it will be allowed to operate also in area A and B. So there is a long list there that the Security Cabinet, decided on Sunday, which basically say, even if it's not officially an annexation, this is the direction.
Yossi Mekelberg, we need to leave it there, but there is so much more to discuss, and I know we'll return to this in the days to come. Yossi Mekelberg, Senior Consulting Fellow on the Middle East and North Africa Programme at Chatham House. As always, a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24.